Welcome to yet another episode of Pursue Podcast. It's great to finally say that again, and it's great to be back in the studio with you, Kim, and great to spend the next few hours chatting about soccer and college life.
Exactly. It's good to be back, and it's good to be joined by a fellow Scandinavian, all the way from Denmark via Teams.
Yep.
We have Emil Laursen. Welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to talk to you today, because Emil, obviously you spent 4 years at Georgia Southern, playing in one of the toughest D1 conferences. You spent a summer with the MLS club New England Revolution and are now back in Denmark working and finishing up your master's degree, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, so a lot of fun things to talk about today.
Yeah. Oh, it's you've been just like me down in the southern parts of the States. You know, the name of your university, Georgia Southern. It's can you tell us a little bit more about Georgia Southern? We'll dig into, of course, the whole process, but just so that people understand Georgia Southern, what is that?
Right. So Georgia Southern is I mean, one of the bigger colleges in Georgia. I think they now have about like 27,000 students. It's pretty much just a college town in the middle of nowhere. Deep in the South, in the U.S., where the culture is a lot different from what we know it here from Scandinavia. But I mean, the people are super nice, and the school is great, and I mean, the weather was fantastic. So yeah. It was awesome.
If you look at the map, you have Georgia. It's just north of Florida, and I think you're about maybe 2.5 hours from North Florida, and you're maybe an hour from the coast, the Atlantic coast.
Right.
Cities like I guess Savannah is where Forrest Gump is sitting on his bench in the park. That's exactly. Savannah for the people that have seen that. Charleston, another beautiful city, one of my favorite cities in the U.S., about 2.5 hours a bit north on the Atlantic coast. So it's a very nice place to study. But before we talk about that, let's rewind to your earlier days in Aarhus, because you got in touch with Stuart, the CEO at CSUSA, and he was the one working with your process, and you obviously went out in 2015, but you started that process of getting ready to become a college soccer player before that. But you were in AGF in Aarhus. You moved away from northern Jylland when you were 16, and you lived by yourself to I guess to become a soccer player. That was the plan.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of other kids, you have that dream of becoming a professional soccer player. So, spend my whole life pursuing that up to that point, and moving away at 16, going to high school, and I think we practiced 6 times a week, and all those did all those things in AGF, and I think at some point you just realize that, or somebody tells you that you're just not one of those players that are going to make it to the first team, and you immediately start to think about how you can kind of go around and pursue this dream in other ways. And I think that, and also hearing about some guys going to the U.S. and really having a blast and playing a good level of soccer was really the things that kind of made it for me and made me think about it, because I think when I started thinking about it in 2013, 2014, there was not that many, players going to the U.S. compared to now. So it wasn't as widespread, but it sounded like a good opportunity, and also just wanted to try something different than everybody else back then. So I think it sounded as a really cool opportunity, but I gotta say that I had no idea what I got myself into, though.
Yeah, that is you can, people think about the concept of it, and that is you can combine your academics with your sport, and you can kind of get paid right through the scholarship, and that's very appealing for a lot of young people, and it's nice to have. Maybe in your case this was the plan B, but then you realize that, hey, my plan A, which is to become a first team player at AGF, yeah, it's not gonna happen. So my plan B is then, okay, because you did well in school, and that's another reason why you want to continue with studying. But then it is, I think, a shock for many that you don't know exactly what it's like to be a student athlete until you try that. There's how is your day, how's your week. There's different semesters. When you're in season, you're in the off season. There's a lot of demands on you that, and then you have the social part, the English. That's especially in the first year. It's obviously a completely new place, new culture. It's in the south, at least, where you were, where I was. South Carolina and Georgia. It's super super nice weather, but in August, I remember when I arrived there, it was just so warm. I was it was like, how can I compete and play well in 40 degrees weather? It's and it was so humid. So how did you? I guess that's something you just have to experience that, but you didn't know about that when you at age 18, 19 were like, okay, yeah, this sounds good.
No, I mean, I don't really think you can do anything to prepare for it, I guess. I think one of the great things that I've thought about afterwards about going over there, because I mean, you get to a new place, you don't know anyone. I mean, you only know that you're going to go there, play some soccer, and go to school. But I mean, the good thing about being a student athlete is that on a soccer team, immediately get like 25 good friends. And then, I mean, obviously you come there, and I remember the first day of preseason, I think, because then in the US for soccer, at least, they do like a preseason where we had like 15 practices in 7 days or something ridiculous. So we did like a 6 a.m. beep test, and then a 10 a.m. practice, and 4 p.m. practice in like, 35 degrees Celsius or something like that. So, I mean, weather-wise, you can't really do anything to prepare for it. But, I mean, socially and academically, and also, language-wise and all that, you just have to be, I guess, open-minded and take it as a good challenge. But I mean, as I also said before, more and more people or young guys and girls are going over there, so you have more experiences to draw from now than I feel like I had when I went. So I mean, you can pick the brain on somebody, and I mean, you guys are doing a good podcast to prepare people to go as well and all that. So you can kind of pick the brain of people that have done the same in the past and kind of prepare in those ways, I guess would be good ideas.
Yeah, it is, and that's partly why we're doing this, to explain like what is your opportunities, what's the journey like, and that is very unique for every single person. It was unique for Truls, it was unique for me, for you, for everybody. But there's some common things that we all cherish, I think, after doing that. And you talk about the language, you talk about the network, you talk about your degree that you end up with, and there's doors that open, which we'll talk about later. But then in AGF, if we go back again to Denmark, and you finding out that, hey, I'm not going to be a pro at AGF, you then went to a second division club.
Right. I mean, I think that was a good kind of overlap. The second division in Denmark is a pretty high level, and I didn't even play consistently there, although I had played pretty consistently throughout my years in AGF. But I mean, when you also go from youth to playing at the senior level, there's also some physical aspects that you have to get used to. But I also think actually it was a good preparation to challenge yourself a little bit there and to prepare yourself for college. Yeah.
Because that was you were part of Team Denmark. You moved to Aarhus when you were 16 and you lived there by yourself, which I mean that is that is a step right there, to move away from home just to try this fully.
Yeah.
So and then you did 4 years. So I guess in your last year of Team Denmark and your 4th year of high school, then you played for Skovbakken in the 2nd division, and then that is it's a perfect, I would say, transition into having an impact in the college game in Division 1, which is, I think you need to have that to play senior football or soccer is very important. And did you feel that was a key thing for you?
I mean, it's always challenging coming to a new club as a player, I think, and you get some new eyes on you, and again, as I just said, the physical aspect, which is also a huge part of soccer in the U.S. You know, you get some challenges there as well. I thought it was a very good transition for me, as well, although it was more just like a necessity because I had a year left of high school before I could go, but I actually think it was really good for my development and, preparing me for going to the U.S. Also, I think in order to be able to have like an impact on the team over there, it was good to get some experience and, be able to be one of the more mature players, although, I was just a freshman to begin with and a little younger than some of the other guys. But I think, players from Scandinavia and Europe in general, they have more experience playing at a higher level than most U.S. players. So definitely.
And you were a bit younger than some of the players on the team, but you were still an older freshman, the first year student freshman. I mean, an American typically is 18. You came over when you were 20.
I think I just turned 20,
20, just played a year in the Danish 2nd division. You used to being yelled at in practice if you don't do well, and I think you learn a lot, and that's also one of the reasons why I think coaches like to recruit. I mean, you were a center back, and you're a big center back, and if you're also vocal and knows how to use your physical attributes, then you have a very good Division 1 center back in our eyes, and also why coaches invest a lot of scholarship money in players like you. And then you started the process with us, and you worked with Stu, and I guess there were many options there, but you ended up with Georgia Southern. And how was the recruiting process? I think it was Jeff Delforn, and he was actually the former assistant at my old school in University of South Carolina. So it's like a small world, the college soccer community. So I knew Jeff a little bit. He wasn't coaching when I was there, but after I left. But how was that recruiting process for you?
I mean, there's a lot of documents and stuff to get filled, and I just remember I had to sign my name a whole bunch. But you get used to that once you go to the U.S., I guess.
Yeah, they need signature for most things. Yeah. Yes, and
exactly.
it hasn't gotten less paperwork since you went in 2015. Emil.
Yeah, no, I guess that sounds very plausible. No, but I mean, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's recommended to start at least a year before, and I think I did that, and actually got going with the recruiting process pretty early, as I remember. And then some schools started to show interest, and actually Georgia Southern was, if not the first, then one of the first schools, and definitely the first to come up with a offer that I seriously considered. And then after that, there were some other bits on the table from further up north. I think in the New York area there was a few, but then I just think that Georgia Southern. I mean, also because I talked a lot to Coach Jeff Delforn there, and he really showed a big interest in recruiting me, and probably a bit more than some of the other schools, which was also why I was pretty sure the whole process that Georgia Southern was a very good fit for me, and obviously the financial part also plays into the decision, because then I mean, I experienced that after actually, verbally committed to Georgia Southern. I told some of the other schools, and they were like, "Oh, I mean, we could have offered you a little bit more if you'd, have liked that." But
Yeah.
I ended up with Georgia Southern, and I definitely did not regret that.
Yeah. Oh, it's a bit of a game sometimes, the recruiting, and it's about things to align. Sometimes, and that's important for when we recruit players and athletes. Doesn't matter if you're a player or what sport you do, but the more quickly you can have things ready in your recruiting process to be recruited. For instance, you've taken the test you need to do. You have your English transcript sent so we can tell them what your grade point average is. Your video is ready. Maybe you also have your full match video, and all these tools that we need. Then we can find options that fit quite quickly, and sometimes it can take a long time because it's about that exact school that will be a fit for you, which might not be a fit for Truls, that is available, and then it's that matchmaking process, and
Right.
and that is an exciting part about it. And then some coaches, they like to just make decisions quickly. Yes, Emil, yes, I like him, let's get him. And others might say, hey, we're looking at another center back, and we're not quite sure if it is a center back of that size we need. Maybe it's more of a guy that also can play right back. There's many different variations there, and but it's the one thing that is critical for a coach to be successful at recruiting internationals. I think one, you need to show a big interest, and clearly Jeff did that with you. You have to feel wanted, and two, you have to explain, because you don't know Georgia Southern or any other school that well. You don't know exactly what it means. It's not like an American that you understand what college is all about because you haven't been there. So you have to really make you understand what it means to come here and how would your time here look like. So I think he probably did a very good job with that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But did you have special preferences before starting this process for what you wanted, or were you more just open to, hey, we'll see what comes, and then make a decision based on the information at hand?
Definitely the second one you said there, because I mean, as I said earlier, I didn't really have that. I didn't really know that many people that have gone, so I didn't really have any, past experience to make my decision on, and also it's just kind of something that I decided to do, and I just wanted to just throw myself out there, and so I didn't really have any preferences. But then when, Georgia Southern came up, and I looked at these other schools up north, where then I was also like, I kind of want an adventure with a different culture, because I mean, I'd heard about how it might be down in the south and all that, so I kind of wanted to experience that culture shock and just try something completely different than Scandinavia.
And a culture shock is what you get when you go to the south, when you're from Norway,
Definitely.
Denmark, Sweden. I mean, anywhere in Europe, I think. And that's up in the next section.
So Emil, obviously you played in one of the tougher D1 conferences in and around the US, and like you told me a little bit before we did this podcast, was that playing games against Clemson with thousands of people in the stands, and that's quite different from what we're used to playing in Scandinavia. So could you just give us a little bit of insight in how that is to play in front of that many people and having that much support around college soccer games?
No, I mean, it's super cool, and it's, I think it was like the record for most people out for a game, that home game we had against Clemson one year. I think it was like 1,200 or something, and it's just amazing because it's all like students, it all young people being out there supporting you, other athletes and friends that you just have coming down, and it just provides you with a lot of energy. I'd never really been used to playing in front of that many fans at all, and it's just the way college works, and people get out there, support, and they really, it doesn't really matter what sport it is, just want to support the teams that are associated with that school.
Yeah, I remember from a personal standpoint as well, like never had that experience obviously playing here and then going over to the U.S., you understand how you get that boost from having people in the stands. I remember when we were playing these overtime games where you've done that 3 times in a month and you're tired and you have actually a couple of hundred people or 1,000 people like you, Emil, and having that gives you an extra boost when you're a player, when you're out there. It's fun to actually play in front of that many people, and you get that extra boost.
You talk about the 12th man, some of the pro teams here talk about that, and I agree. It's I had a similar experience just running a half marathon. I can run quite a bit, but it's not like I'm a runner. But I just decided to join this race for a charity half marathon, and then this was in England, and just the people around this whole track. I mean, we ran the loop twice. It was thousands of people just around it, and even though you were tired, you managed just to keep going. Then I, on the 3 kilometers away from the goal line, or the finish line, I was passed by 3 people running as it seemed like a Tarzan, with people holding these bamboo sticks on each side, and a guy dressed up as a gorilla in a cage running in the middle of them. So that's
you got passed by them.
Then I got passed by them.
Yeah, okay.
So I was running out of running out of steam. This was not anything related to college, but back to the people and the support around you. It's critical, I think, and it's fun to be in that environment.
Yeah, no, it's super fun, and even because it was really hot down there, so we always played at night. So you could be lucky enough that some people in the stands turned up a little bit drunk, and they would yell a little louder.
Yeah, it's a good spectacle, and especially when you have really good facilities like you did. I mean, it's with a big Division 1 university like Georgia Southern. I mean, you have a football team like American football, and you have so many nice facilities for the whole athletic department. It's quite a big athletic department too. So it's I guess you became friends with the athletes in the other sports, and not just the soccer men's and women's players.
Yeah, I mean, you go to study hall at the same place, and you have the same training room where you go and get treatment, and you use the same facilities, the same strength facilities, and all that. So, I mean, you go and talk to people from the other sports, and get connections, which will also make them turn up for your games, and you'll go watch their games. Go watch the women's soccer or the basketball team or something like that, and it just creates a great atmosphere, and it's it's super cool to get to know people across different sports.
Was it a very international athletic department at Georgia Southern?
We had, so the tennis team was pretty internationally based, and there was some on the women's soccer team as well. But I mean, besides that, and then our team as well. But besides that, not really. I mean, there's obviously not a whole lot of international players on the football and basketball, baseball teams, and all those classic American sports.
Yeah, you have the squad of an American football team is like 80 plus players. It's
I think it's like 100 plus.
Yeah, it's 100 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even so it's I mean, your teammates, but you can't really know everyone on that team when you're playing for that team, which is strange. But you're more like a close-knit family type of feel. I mean, that's at least the analogy a lot of people use for their soccer team, that you come in and you're just one of the family right away.
Yeah.
Was that the same feeling that you had coming from Denmark?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, at first people were super welcoming, and you spend so much time together, You go into practice at 7 in the morning every day, get done around 10, 11, and then maybe you have meetings a couple of nights during the week. And then when you go for away games, you probably practice in the morning, you leave at noon, and then you play the next day, and then you get home that next day during the night. So you basically spend like 2 days together each week for away games. Preseason, you spend the whole week together, pretty much like every single minute, and it was great. I remember especially like my first Thanksgiving one. Me and one of my friends, who was actually a Norwegian guy as well, we got invited to go home with one of our American friends for the week, and it just like exemplifies, how much people care and consider you as family within the team.
That is a very nice thing, and I think a lot of international students like us, we've because I did the exact same thing. Was invited to an American family for Thanksgiving, the end of November, and it's uh, that is probably more important than Christmas for Americans.
Oh yeah. No, that's I when I talk to people at home, it's like, Thanksgiving is like their Christmas, or
Yeah.
what Christmas is for us is their Thanksgiving. It's huge, and you get to meet the whole family and all those kind of things. It's kind of funny, but definitely helps for us, internationals to acclimate over there and feel like we're a part of it.
Oh, no doubt. And to talk a little bit more about the actual things that happen on the soccer pitch there, because there's a lot of things. I mean, you did extremely well for Georgia Southern. I mean, your sophomore year, your second season, you were named team captain, and that's when there was a change of head coach for that season, where John Murphy came in and took over as the head coach, and immediately kind of noticed your leadership qualities. You're a big, tall, Scandinavian, vocal center back. Fits quite perfectly for a team captain, and so did he think. How was it to get Murph, as we call him, as your head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed my first year with Coach Kennedy, and obviously he was the one recruiting me. But Coach Murph was definitely different, and something else, more like I've experienced back home in Europe. Because I mean, he also coached teams in Scotland and all that. So very vocal and very aggressive in his coaching, but it really suited me well. I think a lot of the American kids had, some difficulties getting used to that, because they've never really been used to like having a coach that actually yelled at them. But I
But
kind of
it's
just
more
like,
like uh, he would give you an honest answer about what he thought about
yeah,
something that, if you, like, let's say you did a drill in practice and it didn't go well, he would say, well, this is why it didn't go well.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I would think at the same time, when you did something well, he'd be sure to let you know. So
Oh
a
yeah,
straight shooter coach.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you knew that, if he says something to you, that was like his honest opinion, which I think, it should help a lot of people. It definitely helped me, but also, I mean, I like the coach who was like, if I played bad for the first 15 minutes, I don't mind someone yelling at me that I played like, that I played really bad the first 15 minutes, that, I was going to sit on the bench if I didn't pick it up a little bit.
You
And he would
needed
say that.
you needed the wake up call that helped
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Yeah.
But he was really great, and he he really just like spent all the energy he had on improving the team, and tried to basically improve everything around the setup. I think before I got there, Coach Kennedy had been there for like 10 plus years, so I think it was also good to get a change. And Murph came from some really professional setups, and he really tried to improve like every aspect of being a soccer player and about the soccer program, which I really think helped a lot of people and helped changing a lot of mindsets. Yeah.
So what changes were made that or how was it? How was your typical day as a student athlete when you were in season at Georgia Southern?
So a couple of times a week we would have weights, like lifting before practice, but in season that would just be like, some light weight work and some work with bands and stuff. But we'd probably do that around like 7 a.m. So we'd wake up maybe like, 6:15, whatever, eat a little bit, go there, lift at 7, and then go to the soccer field from probably 8 to 10, and practice. And obviously, because during the season is very compressed in the US, so you probably play games twice a week. So, it's like the Premier League nowadays, where the players can't really, go full on in practice because you have so many games. So a lot of it is recovery, and then you have like some practices now and then where you actually go a little bit harder. But it's a lot of preparation for the games, and doing. That was also one thing with Murph. We started doing more like tactical stuff when you got there. Around like the pressure and all those things that we're also used to in Scandinavia to do a lot.
And that's probably things he brought back with him from his time in the professional game in Scotland. And I can just imagine Murph being on the coaching in Scotland with some angry Scots yelling back. But but it's good. Murph is certainly one of the great coaching characters, and also when you see from a recruiting point with he's very specific in exactly what he wants. He really sees what ingredients he needs to build in his team. But in terms of the structure of the day, I mean, when you were done with practice at maybe 10, then
right.
Your school day starts, right?
Right. Then I'd go to class. We could schedule classes from 11, so I'd go to class probably around 11. So the hard thing about being a student athlete, I think, is finding times to eat. I guess because then you go to class and you also have to figure out how to get some lunch. So a lot of the food you eat would be like kind of walking in between classes or something. Because then you have classes from 11 to maybe 3 or 4. Then some hours to study, eat some dinner, and then during the season you'd probably have video sessions at least twice a week, which would probably be from like 7 to 8:30, something like that, and then go home, chill a little bit, and then go to sleep, and then do it all over again.
Yeah, no, and you have all these restaurants around campus, but you couldn't really bring in like an all-you-can-eat buffet-size plate to your class lecture and sit in the back and eat while listening to your professors.
Not really. I think especially in the beginning, you had to really focus on understanding what was going on at the first place. So no, you couldn't really do that, but I mean, you'll always make it work, and you have that little gap between classes. You just gotta plan accordingly.
Those precious 10 minutes, run from one classroom to another building across campus with
exactly.
the sandwich. Yeah.
I think what changes the most during your 4 years at college is how you manage your time. Time management just keeps on getting better and better each year for each season. I remember that as well. Like freshman year. Probably didn't eat because I couldn't find the time for it. Yeah. And then by sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, you could literally fit everything into 10 minutes.
That's perfect. I think I have the best advice to anyone that will become a student athlete or is currently a student athlete, if they're not already doing it. Get a bike and travel around campus. 1, it's time efficient because you get from A to B quite fast. 2, you do your recovery while you're on the bike. So you don't have to, you can go to the treatment room every once in a while, maybe get a massage and some treatment. But I remember the season where I used my bike a lot, hardly any injuries. The other seasons, too much injuries. So that would be my number 1 thing for saving some of those precious minutes. While still doing something that's great for your body as a student athlete, is to buy a bike.
Yeah, I definitely used my bike as well a lot, which was very.
He's Danish, of course he has a bike.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say that I was probably one of like 10 people at whole Georgia Southern who biked around, because people want to drive around their big trucks,
Yeah, I had actually a longboard. That's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good for speed, but not good for recovery.
Not at all.
Yeah. But Emil, your sophomore season was great. You did very well from your center back position, and even so well that the summer was quite exciting for you. Can you explain a little bit how the summer was?
Yeah, so because Murph knew some people up in Boston where he's from, and I got in contact with some coaches up at New England Revolution. So got the chance to go up there and train with the under 23 team up in, or a little bit outside of Boston, out in Foxborough. And yeah, I mean, it was super exciting, and already during the first week, my coach calls me and say like, hey, they want to see you up with the first team. So then I started consistently over those. I was up there for about 2.5 months, where I consistently trained with the under 23s, played some scrimmages with them, and also got to train a lot with the first team from the MLS, which, I mean, consisted of, at that point, a couple of U.S. national team players, one from Sierra Leone, and a couple of other national team players from different places. I mean, it was just an amazing experience, and one of the best, or some of the best players that I've ever been able to train with, and I was involved with 11v11s at their practice and just getting exposure to. I was matched up with a guy called Juan Agudelo a lot, who was like a U.S. national team player at that point. Super great, and I specifically remember a couple of times where he got very frustrated because he was not able to score and go past me, where I really performed well. So I just think that gave me a huge boost, and also gave me a lot of confidence that I was actually good enough to be a part of a team on that level.
That is amazing experience, and that's one of the doors can open if you do well in the college game, and you can get opportunities like this over the summer. And what was the difference, playing there in the summer? And we're talking MLS first team. This is a top league in the world, and you get the chance to play and compete there. What was the difference from, say, a good Division 1 game versus let's say a scrimmage or training match for an MLS team in training?
So I think because Division 1 soccer in college is very physical, so I don't think the physical aspect was that big of a difference. Besides, they were probably a little bit faster. But then it gets a lot more like, the European style of soccer, where the players are a lot smarter, a lot more professional. And it's just like the technical part. They just don't make those mistakes, and you just get punished whenever you make those mistakes. So for me, it was more like, I could have practices where I performed on, 75%, and I could still be one of the better players out there. But here, I just had to be on my very best, because I also knew that if there was a practice or two practices maybe in a row where I didn't perform, I might not get the call up for the next practice, So you really had to be on your feet and perform really well. But I thought that was also a very good, mental practice for me, to be able to kind of, like stay focused and kind of bring that. I think I managed to bring that with me and think about it when I went back to college again and try to, I have to perform my best in every practice, because that's eventually how you get better.
And I bet Murph was quite happy to get you back for the season, for your junior year, and bring in that experience and maybe spread that out to the rest of your teammates. I mean, you were team captain at that point, and people probably looking up to you anyways. But this is it says something that good players get the chance to do that, and actually, you were there for 2.5 months. That is, it's not like you were told that 1 week was enough. We've seen enough. Here was the whole time you could be there. But then there was a coaching change right after you finished up that summer season, which is always things happen a lot in the pro game.
Yeah, it's just the world of soccer, really. The team didn't perform, as I remember, it didn't perform that well that year. So I think, like, I didn't really stay that much in contact with them, but I know that they knew me, and I think I had done well during those months. So obviously, I walked around hoping for, to go back up there, or at least, staying into contact with them. But yeah, then I think the coach got fired like a couple of months after, and just didn't really, stay connected or anything. But yeah, as you said, that's just what happens in soccer, I guess. You just gotta make your way through.
Wasn't it Brad Friedel that was coach?
Yeah, he was a new coach.
Yeah, he was the new coach that took over, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's a legend.
Yeah.
For those of you that like Tottenham, yeah.
Well, no, but he's a legend throughout. Now
in the
Chelsea.
US, he's
in the US, he's a big legend.
He is for sure. And then your junior year, bit of an anticlimax here. It's you'll just have to explain us what happened, because that was you were on fire, right? And then your junior season doesn't end up becoming what we had all hoped, right?
Yeah, well, I actually got to play. I got to play my junior season, and then I got injured right after it, I think, and yeah, that was definitely a bummer. That kind of, I had some concussions over the life of my college career, and then, had that fourth official concussion, I would say, and yeah, that was just a bummer that really put an end to it, and the doctors down there told me that, I was not able to, proceed playing soccer or anything, and obviously being a player in D1, having those experiences, hoping to go pro, that was definitely heartbreaking, and I know Coach Murph was almost as heartbroken as I was myself. So
I think we were all gutted, of course. I mean, of course, it's your head. You gotta, when you have a lot of concussions, and the one you went into this battle, right, and you hit you right, I guess, in the forehead, and
right.
You have to be careful. I mean, there's a life after soccer too, but obviously the doctors telling you that, hey, you shouldn't play anymore. It's too risky for if something like this happens again. I mean, you just gotta. That sucks, big time. But
yeah,
what could you do?
It was a long period where I went and tried to recover, but I would say being in the U.S. college system, because you have such a big support system, and a lot of athletic trainers, a lot of doctors that are very or really know what they're doing and all that. I really think that helped, and they really tried to guide me along the way, and they tried to really take those decisions for me, because it was very difficult for me to say, okay, that's it, I'm never going to play soccer again. It was easier. I mean, it was a lot easier to be told, you can't play soccer again, instead of having to making that decision yourself. You can't really do that, as I think I was 22 at that point, you know.
Well, that is brutal, but it's like ripping a Band-Aid off big time.
Yeah.
But I mean, your junior year was still good before you got injured, but it was more like that whole junior year just ended up with you having to put your boots away. But
yeah.
I mean, your accomplishments both on the soccer pitch with your academics. I mean, you ended up earning the academic All-American as the first student athlete in Georgia Southern University history to do that, which is a remarkable feat. I mean, what is an academic All-American? What does it take to become that?
I think it was like, it was a combination of obviously getting really good grades and then performing well on the field, and then there was like some weighting system. But then that organization, COSIDA, basically selected the 11 players that were most suitable to get on that team, and it was obviously players from all around the country at very good schools. So I was super proud about getting awarded that, and yeah, I really tried to maintain a high level, and both school wise and also on the pitch throughout my career. So it was really awesome to get that award, and especially as the first in the school history. It
is a fantastic achievement, and something that, of course, tells a lot about how much effort you've put into both arenas and how well you've done. But and that is a difference as to how it is in, let's say, Denmark, in Sweden, in Norway, Scandinavian countries. I think most European countries actually, but in the US you get awards, and they root for you to get awards. Is that something that's changed your mindset in any way?
I mean, I really think it was really nice to, you know, get acknowledged when you did something good. And I don't think we're good enough at doing that here in Scandinavia in particular. So I really enjoyed that about the US culture. And I think, you know, that was definitely one of my main takeaways from just being in the US in general, is just the way people behave and the way people really cheers for each other and wish, you know, each other the best. Where, you know, sometimes in Scandinavia, you almost feel like everything is a competition in some ways, where it's, you know, probably not necessary. So it definitely gave me some food for thought afterwards, that, you know, that's the way it works in the US, and it just kind of gives you a lot of motivation also. I mean, they give a lot of awards, and they even gave, like, you know, weekly awards and all that, but, you know, why not? Because it really gives you a lot of motivation that you can feed off from, and really try to, you know, keep improving your game. And I think the whole thing about, you know, me going up to the New England Revolution, and also had, you know, some other offers to go play with some teams that summer, that wouldn't have happened if they weren't aware that I'd had a good season that year, which they only did because, you know, all that stuff gets shared on, you know, different medias and social media and all that. So I really think there's like a lot of benefits to actually do it that way.
Oh, it is, and I think most people getting awards will learn to see that, hey, that's actually pretty nice, and hopefully take that part of them with them home when they end up going back.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But you Murph, you became his right hand man. You know, you had 1 year left right after your third year, your junior year, and you ended up being a coach. And you got a scholarship for that, and so that you could finish. It was very unfortunate circumstances, but you ended up with a coaching role in the team. So how was that different? You know, your last year from being team captain into now not playing anymore, but helping Murph and the rest of the coaching staff to get the best out of your team. How was that?
Yeah, so it was probably not like a classical coaching role that I had, because obviously, first of all, he gave me time to recover, but afterwards it was also more of like a gentleman's agreement between me and him, that, you know, I was there as much as I basically wanted to and was able to. But he really just, you know, for me being a captain for the past 2 seasons before that, he really just wanted, you know, what I've kind of brought to the table at that point, for me to continue doing that. And he knew that, you know, once I get out there, I will immediately start to be very vocal and try to help my teammates, although it's from the sideline. So I really think that, you know, that was kind of like his aim of doing what he did. He knew that I could contribute with something positive, and I think the most important thing that was that, you know, my merits from the field and the way my teammates knew me, he also knew that they would respect when I actually tried to say something. And, you know, I would go into the huddle with the players before the game and all those different things that I used to. So, you know, I tried to make it as much as it was before, without, you know, the pretty big or significant change that I just couldn't play.
Oh.
So no, I definitely try to, you know, maintain that role and help him and try to look out for his interests as well. And I mean, I think he thought it was a pretty good solution as well.
Yeah. Oh, when you still have a year left to finish up your bachelor's in finance and economics, and then to still be involved and feel needed, I think was a very good decision. And for you to put on your resume that you've already, like, you've had a leadership position with coaching, etc., for, you know, because you have to at this point start building a career that it does not involve you playing soccer anymore.
No, I mean definitely it was very good experience, and I mean, first of all, for me mentally as well, it was also because as I said earlier, you really get that family experience being a part of a team. So just going from one day being a part of it to not being would also be a significant change. So I was happy to be able to stay involved, but no, definitely it was another experience to coach, but I think I really enjoyed, the leadership role, being a captain on the team. So I don't think it was like a significant change for me in the way I was acting. Besides, I probably had to control my temper a little bit more.
Yeah, you couldn't have the spontaneous outbursts. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It's funny. You and I, we did two different things that usually professional players do. You went into coaching, and since my last year, I didn't have good enough knees to play every game, so I ended up actually commentating the games for the TV channel in New Hampshire and for the school. So I ended up being like an expert commentator. So you did
The pundit.
yeah, the pundit. So you did the coaching thing, and then I went into the media role and did that. So I remember.
And now we meet here on the
and
podcast.
now we meet here on the podcast. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
But then you ended up graduating in 2019, getting your degree, which is a great achievement. I mean, that is like something to remember forever. It's a big lifetime event to end up with a bachelor's degree. How was it like to put the cap and gown? The traditional. Maybe your family came over and saw you walk and get your diploma.
No, it was amazing. Honestly, I think those days around graduation are some of the best days of my life. Those were really amazing, and the school, because yeah, getting a bachelor's degree is big, and for some people in the U.S. it's just huge, because there would be families there where that was like the first generation of college students, and they were just there would be like 20 people from that family, and they would just like clap and yell and all that, and we would do like ceremonies where it was athletes only. And also, Murph would invite us to his house for a night with like all the families that graduated and all that. And, getting like cap and gown on, although you look a little bit stupid, then it's a really, it's really amazing. It really was like, a day that I'll never forget with my buddies out there.
So Emil, obviously you graduated at the same time as I did, and if I remember correctly, you tried to get a job in the U.S. Before eventually traveling back to Denmark. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I really wanted to, stay and and further my experience in the U.S. a little bit. So I tried to get a job over there, and had probably 7, 8, maybe even 10 job interviews with companies that I think they like me, but there's just that thing that you need a visa in order to be able to stay and work, and they just have some pretty strict immigration laws in the U.S. right now. So you kind of have to get a sponsorship from the employer, which is pricey, and it's also kind of risky for them to try to do that. So it didn't really, end up happening, unfortunately, at that point. Yeah.
But you did land on your feet when you went back to Denmark, because you had your bachelor's in finance and economics, and you landed a job in an investment firm pretty much right away.
Yeah. So actually, I probably started realizing at the beginning of the spring 2019 when I graduated that, okay, getting a job in the U.S. was not going to happen. So I started to look after some opportunities at home, and also applied to get into the master's degree in finance that I'm currently in, and I was happy enough to actually my first and only application to a firm back here in Denmark to land that job with an asset management firm in the investment industry, where I basically help doing analysis for investments for clients. And then unfortunately I didn't get into the master's degree right away because I mean, my experience was that the Danish universities are a little conservative, so it was a little hard for me to, translate the classes from the US. But, it ended up happening, and I got in actually without taking any additional classes, but I just had to wait a year. So I didn't start until this past summer, but then the job that I work with now, I basically worked full time for a year, and then went over to work just part time from this past summer. So yeah, I've been with this job for more than a year and a half, and I'm now doing a master's in finance at home. So I've definitely landed on my feet and built a life back here, and really made use of the American bachelor's degree that I got.
Yeah. That's impressive to just put in one application and just land that, especially in a very competitive industry like asset management, investment. I mean, that for people with finance degrees is quite popular to try and get into that field when you're young and hungry.
Yeah. I had good grades from the US, which definitely helped, but because I know there were some other applicants that they looked into, but I really think that nowadays so many people are getting, degrees from universities, and being able to show off that you've actually, gone to the US and taken your degree, and just try to do something different will really help you, put you on top of the curve there, because you kind of set yourself aside from everybody else, which is, a great motivation and a great attribute from getting a college degree in the US, I think.
Was that feedback you got during your interview process, or maybe with your colleagues now, that after now you get to know them and you like the reasons for hiring you? Was that a big factor for them?
It was definitely part of it. I think it was. I mean, everyone is different, and it was the whole picture that they tried to make fit. But I definitely think that they saw something interesting in me doing something else, and getting that experience in another country, and showing some initiative, and showing that I was able to stand on my own feet. I definitely think that was a big part of it, and I mean that's what they've told me. Yeah.
And what your classes, probably a lot of finance numbers and a lot of investment strategies, stuff like this that you learn in college. I mean, how prepared were you with your, because this is a top accredited business degree that you got from Georgia Southern. How prepared were you coming into a Danish investment firm?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, for work, I was definitely prepared enough. I think the school was not, it was kind of like in the middle, I guess, academically in the U.S., kind of like average school. But I think it was fine. It was definitely not too difficult, and I also think that we're, from Scandinavian countries, we're very well prepared. We have really good schools to go over there. But it's not that I feel like I've definitely, or that I lacked something when I got home. I think, on the other hand, you kind of, learn quicker after taking in all those experiences, and something that you can't, that you have to consider, and that you can't undervalue, is the fact that you're fluent in English, and all those things that people from Denmark are typically are not. So.
That's just an added bonus of just being in another country like the US for 4 years. You come back with obviously perfect English. But then, and we've been talking about that here in the office a lot, with the shift of maybe American degrees and that sporting side, that more and more employers are more curious about this, because it is you're really training probably, and you have commitments for maybe 20 hours plus per week alongside your studies. I mean, that is you're studying just as many classes as a regular student, but they don't have the 20 hours plus with the sport element, and taking care of yourself, and rehab and physio, and all, taking advantage of the support system. But is that something that you think employers here notice?
So that's definitely a big thing for American employers. They really, if you're a student athlete, they'll almost always take you in for an interview because, as Truls said, it's really a stamp that you know how to manage your time. I don't think you get recognized as much for that back here. Probably not as much as you should, because playing a sport in college is a very big commitment, time-wise. But it's definitely not as big as, or doesn't get recognized as much back here as it does in the U.S. But I also think it's because a lot of employers, you'd probably, at my age, you'd probably get employed by someone who's older than you, and they just don't really know how the U.S. college system works.
Yeah, not in the U.S., and you're spot on there with that. The status of a student athlete, it has a big standing in society there. And that's where you see there's in the college system across all the different divisions, there's more than 650,000 student athletes. It's a big number. All the way from 2-year schools to the best academic institutions in the world. So it is but I think it takes time building that culture outside of the US to really understand. And then it goes back to what we initially said at the beginning here, where you really have to be a student athlete to understand what that means. Or have maybe been a student or been in close contact with what that means.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it takes a lot of time and a lot of time management skills that you learn along the way. I mean, the fact that you don't really know when you should consume your lunch, it's all well, you learn it along the way. But it's definitely a significant accomplishment if you can go through 4 years of being a student athlete. And my experience was also, I had a lot of teammates who quit after 1 or 2 years because it was just too big of a pressure for them.
Yeah. But I guess eating lunch in the investment and asset management sector, it probably is with a sandwich next to your 3 computer screens, or is that not the right image that I have?
Well, sometimes I guess, but
cool.
Well, touching on what we're talking about now, Emil, looking back at your time at college and at Georgia Southern, what would be your biggest advice for young future student athletes that are traveling from Scandinavia over to the U.S.?
I think just no matter where they go, it's just like, embracing it and embracing the culture and, really try to enjoy it. It sounds ridiculous, but 4 years really, flies by. And for me, not being able to compete all those 4 years is really, if you go over and play a sport, it's really enjoy it, every single practice, every single game, all that, just soak it in and really try to embrace it and enjoy it. Because not that I didn't do that, because I really feel like I did that a lot, but I don't really regret anything I did over there. So it's really just all about that, I think.
Yeah, that's a good advice.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, with being prepared for for a soccer player, like a tough preseason, we see that a lot with students coming over. Maybe underestimating is not the right word, but not knowing the demands of what you're about to do, because you talked about the compressed season. You only have a very small window to when you come over there first time, to get to know your new teammates, and you have to be super fit when you arrive. Just imagine the 35 degrees, 2 or 3 training sessions in preseason. That you have to be fit for that.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to be in a very, very good physical condition when you go, because I mean, the worst thing from the beginning would be that if you got injured during preseason, because then season starts, and if you're out for 2 weeks, you miss 4 games, so, and that's like 1/4 of your season or something like that. So you really want to be in a good physical shape, because I mean, it all goes by super fast, and you want to be able to compete, because you'll get frustrated if you get injured and all that. It's easier to get acclimated if you play, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And to finish up the $1 million question, you know, what is the best memory? If you just we talked a lot about your soccer and being a student athlete, but your best memory outside of the sporting side of things, what would that be?
I mean, I just have countless memories with, good parties and good travels and all those kind of things. I was able to go visit a friend in California. I was able to, go to Boston and spend a spring break with a buddy down in Tampa. So I think, just like the best memories was definitely those, travels that you made outside. And that's probably another advice to give, really, throw yourself into it and go explore the whole country while you're there, because then you get back to Scandinavia and you really find that, okay, it's not that easy to go and visit, California or Tampa or Texas or something like that. So, once you're over there, you really make use of those 4 years and go explore.
That's good. I think we've all done that and
Yep.
would fully agree. So
100%.
that's great. Emil, thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy with your masters in finance plus the countless $1 million investments you're doing on a daily basis. So really appreciate you joining our show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was my pleasure.
Great.
Thanks.